Good morning and welcome to our Wednesday morning devotions. We used to do word and worship, but this today is more of a little devotional thought and invitation for you to think about possibilities. We're still kind of in the new year 2021, even though we're now in February. But I'm Greg Wilcox. I used to work here, and now I'm retired, but I'm delighted to be back. And thanks to Bill and Christy for a chance to visit this morning about mission and ministry here at Good Sam and the National Campus. I don't have any announcements, and I'll save just the prayer list for the end today. The text that I'd like to use is not for this coming Sunday, February 7th, but for February 14th, for Valentine's Day. And I'm not going to use the gospel text, I'm using the Old Testament text. February 14th is the Transfiguration of Jesus Sunday. But this is kind of an unusual story. You may have heard it. It's from 2 Kings. And it reads like something out of Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings or C.S. Lewis, The Chronicles of Narnia, or fantasy novels. It feels a little bit like a magician's apprentice who is with the master and looking for some kind of special past for more magic or power. It's about Elisha and Elijah, two prophets, and Elijah is one of the two major Old Testament figures. Elijah and Moses are the two that are often mentioned in terms of dominant figures in Old Testament lore. But Elijah is about to be taken from the world, and Elisha, his apprentice, is hoping to get something from the master. So this is 2 Kings, the second chapter, verses 1 through 11, and I'm reading out of a translation called The Voice. Elijah and Elisha were leaving Gilgal when the Eternal One planned to snatch Elijah up into the heavens by the power of a fierce dancing wind. Elijah to Elisha, I ask you to remain here. The Eternal has commanded me to go all the way to Bethel. And then Elisha says, as certain as your own life and the life of the Eternal, I refuse to abandon you. So the two men traveled down to Bethel together, where Elisha was approached by the prophet's disciples who lived there. The prophet's disciples say, are you aware that the Eternal One is going to snatch Elijah, your mentor, from you today? Elisha, yes, I'm aware of this. I want you to be quiet about it. Elijah to Elisha, I beg you to remain here. The Eternal has commanded me to travel to Jericho. Elisha says, as certain as your own life and the life of the Eternal, I refuse to abandon you. The two men then traveled to Jericho together, where the prophet's disciples living in Jericho approached Elisha. And they said, are you aware that the Eternal One is going to snatch your mentor away from you today? Elisha, yes, I'm aware of this. I want you to keep quiet about it. Elijah to Elisha, I beg you to remain here. The Eternal One has commanded me to travel to the Jordan River. Elisha says, as certain as your own life and the life of the Eternal, I refuse to abandon you. So the two men then traveled to the Jordan River together. While Elijah and Elisha were standing near the Jordan River, 50 of the prophet's disciples from that area stood at a distance from them on the other side. Elijah removed his cloak and rolled it up. Then he struck the water with it, and the water divided. Elijah and Elisha then walked across on dry land. After the two had made it to the other side of the Jordan, Elijah spoke to Elisha. Tell me what it is you'd like me to do for you before I am taken away from you. Elisha says, please, I wish to receive a double portion of your spirit. As your successor, I want to have twice the portion of your power. Elijah said, what you have requested of me is challenging, but it will be done for you if you witness my departure. But if you do not watch, then you will not have your double portion. Now, as the two continued walking along and talking as they normally did, something incredible happened. A blazing chariot pulled by blazing horses stormed down from the heavens and came between Elijah and Elisha. Then Elijah was swept away up into heaven by the fiery storm. Elisha witnessed this amazing spectacle. My Father, O my Father, the chariots and riders of Israel. Well, like I say, it's an interesting little story, and it reads like it's part of a fantasy novel. But I would like to suggest that it's a lovely little metaphor, and it has a message for each of us this morning, which I hope we can make use of as we continue on through this year 2021. And to try to get at that, a recent experience. My wife Gail and I were visiting our son Luke and his wife Maggie at their little apartment in the Twin Cities. They live near Lake Nokomis in a nice little middle-class neighborhood, and they live on top of what is kind of a neighborhood store, and their apartment is above it there, and they have a garage off to the side. And I pulled into that garage across the sidewalk there with a present that we were bringing for Maggie's baby shower. They're soon due with their first in March now. And as I got out of the car and got the present to bring up to their apartment, a man was walking with his dog towards us, and he called out to me, "Do you know that you're parking illegally? You can't park across that sidewalk." And I said to him, "Well, I'm just stopping briefly. I'm going to take the present up, and then I'll come right back down and park it on the street." And he got really, really angry. "You inconsiderate blankety blank, blankety blank." And there was plenty of room, by the way, to walk around the car, so it wasn't like I was blocking his walk. "What do you think you're doing? You blankety blank, blankety blank," and on he went. And I won't fill in the blanks for you this morning, but you can imagine he was exceptionally profane as he swore at me. And I was struck. I didn't know what to say. It's hardly ever that I am sworn at like that, so crudely and profanely, with such vitriol. He was really, really angry. And I had no answer for him. I said, "I'll move it here shortly," and he walked by still swearing. Well, my wife and my son were out there as well, and they said, "It's his problem, just forget it." But I'm not like that. When somebody attacks me verbally like that, it's hard for me to get past that. It's like a stain on my memory, on my conscience, on my soul, and I need to process that. I need to work through it. And it literally took me a whole day just to think about what was going on, and was there something I'd done besides parking there briefly, and what was the issue, what was the problem. I imagined different ways of dealing with it, not all of them kindly, but it took me quite a while just to get past that encounter. He left, in just that brief few moments, a really, really deep impression on me, a negative impression, one that it took a while to get past. And maybe you've had an encounter like that. Something has happened in your past. I hope you don't have many of those, because they're not pleasant. The opposite is true as well. People can leave a stain on our hearts, our minds, our souls. They also can leave a profound blessing. They can make a really positive difference. And in a way, that's what's going on in this little story between Elisha and Elijah. Elisha is hanging on closely to his master, to Elijah, with the hope that he will receive a profound blessing, that something will happen that will leave a lasting mark on his own life, on his own mind and heart and soul. And the lovely little metaphor for me is that there are people like that, who out of their own sense of life and faith and kindness and love and grace can leave an impression on us that makes a really positive difference way deep down inside. And like Elisha, when we encounter people like those, we need to pay attention. Over and over again, in this little story that I read, the disciples came and said to Elisha, "Do you know your master's being taken away?" And Elisha said, "Shut up! I want to pay attention to Elijah. I have only these last few moments left. I'm going to make the most of our time together." When we encounter people who are full of the Spirit of God's mercy and grace and love, we need to pay close attention. It can make a real difference for us. When I first started with Good Sam many, many years ago, and I was telling Christy and Bill this morning, one of the things I did intentionally was travel around the society and visit nursing homes and talk to the administrators, the leaders of those homes. A lot of the administrators welcomed me and were gracious. Some I could tell were impatient. What are you doing here? Why are you wasting my time? There was one older gentleman who still lingers deep in my mind and heart. He was humble to the extent of being almost self-effacing. He didn't want to say anything about his own work. And he was incredibly warm and welcoming. And I got the impression in his presence that he had nothing to do but spend his time with me and that he wanted me to be there. And we sat and visited, and the sense of his quiet and his peace and his love and his goodness and his grace kind of sunk deep into my head and heart. I have no idea if he was a good administrator with finances or with other specific things that administrators need to know about, but as we walked around, I got the deep impression that his residents and his staff also felt the depth of his kindness, the profundity of his goodness and his grace, and that it sunk deep into their lives as well. I will never forget this one man for the impact that he left deep within my heart and soul. You might think that what I'm saying, as I finish now, is to make the most of that time you have with people who leave a residue of grace and goodness in your life. And I am saying that. But I'm saying one additional thing as well. Sometimes I will see on Facebook or other social media somebody making a statement about people that have irritated or frustrated them. Something like, life is too short to spend time with people like this. I'm ditching them. And what I want to say today is make the most of your time with people who are full of God's grace and goodness and kindness, and with those who are not, who walk along the sidewalks of your life, and who are maddeningly frustrating or who are profane or full of unhappiness or vitriol of one kind or another. And in whatever ways you can, you be the person who blesses them. In the ways that you respond, in the ways that you react, whenever it's possible for those people who are not full of God's kindness and grace and goodness, you be the one who reflects for them the promise, the goodness, the grace of God. Amen. Off of our list today, we're praying for the employees and those they serve in Postville, Iowa, and Prescott, Arizona. The department is business development and those they serve. The prayers for those who are struggling with addiction and their family and friends. And then our private prayer requests in the basket. Would you pray with me as we close? Gracious God, thanks for family, for friends, for folks that we meet along life's way who so reflect your goodness, your grace, your mercy, your love, your peacefulness, that they make a lasting impression on us. When we meet those people, help us pay special attention to them and to soak in the goodness and grace they offer. For those who don't, who are full of anger and bitterness and who are full of frustration, who yell or cry out in ways that frustrate and anger us, help us reflect your goodness, your grace back to them. Pray for the people we have named, the folks, the employees, and those they serve in Postville and Prescott, the Department of Business Development. We especially remember those struggling with addiction of one kind or another, and our private prayer requests. Each one, Jesus, bless them today, remind them of your presence, give them your peace as they journey on, and give us too that sense of your presence day in and day out. We ask it all in your strong name. Amen. Thanks for coming today. It's a lot better than just talking to empty tables. I'm grateful. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Blessings.